Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to CyberCast After Dark. It is that time. It is Wednesday, October the 22nd. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And thank you for joining us today. I am going old school wired because I did not charge my earbuds. So if I wanted to hear our guest coming up here, hint, his name's Phillip Wylie. If I wanted to be able to hear Phillip, I was going to need some buds. So that's the purpose of the what you got going on here. But we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about pen testing. If you are excited about getting into pen testing, that's something you're like, you know what, that could be cool. Pen testing looks like it's pretty fire. You're not wrong. A lot of people like it. I'm enamored by it. I think it's great. I'm trying to get things to work here that they refuse to do. Like, there we go. And Philip has done a great job of helping people over the years figure out how to make that happen. Right. So I figured let's get Philip on here. Let's reach out to some good folks like yourself who thinks that that's an interesting skill set for either you want to get into pen testing or you think it would be a good skill to have because you're a defender and it's great to know what are those things that pen testers do that I could start to build defenses against and be more effective at that. Another great reason to learn some pen testing stuff. Philip has done it. He's been around the block quite a few times. So I'm looking really forward to having him on here. Welcome everybody to the show, the one, the only, Mr. Phillip Wylie. Philip, sir, welcome to CyberCast IRL. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
Man, you sound great. You just sound that's some quality audio you got going on there, my sir.
Oh, thanks. It's been a lot of trial and error to get everything set up. I guess the most difficult piece is really getting the video down because my from the podcasting, I did audio only for a couple years before I started adding video.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And people love good audio. And I'm not gonna lie, I've got a little audio jealousy. I hope that everybody is listening to me, and I hope that I sound even a tenth as good as what you sound right now because it
Well, you,
sounds
sa-
great.
you sound good to me.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, that said, this is Cybercast IRL, and I know that this is your first time here. It's probably many people's first time here because it's only been this is episode 14 or 15. We're working on it. I don't remember which one it is now, but I'm so glad you're on. I've been able to talk with you in the past. We've had a good time before, meeting at cons. We've talked
Yep.
at done podcast stuff like this before, webinar stuff. So we're not strangers to each other. So that's really cool. But there might be some people in the chat room that very well may never have heard of Phillip Wylie, who you are, what you do. I just want to take a few minutes to let you have the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell people who you are.
Sure. So I'm Phillip Wylie. I've been in cybersecurity for coming up on 22 years. Prior to that, I spent 6 years as a sysadmin before I got into cybersecurity. I've been in the offensive security space for over 12 years. I've worked as a consultant. I've worked for as an internal resource. I've taught. I used to teach at Dallas College. I taught pen testing and web app pen testing, and also there was where I came up with my lecture that ended up becoming a book, the Pentester Blueprint. So the Pentester Blueprint was based on my class lecture I gave at the beginning of the semester, and it turned into a conference talk by November 2018, and then became a book called The Pentester Blueprint. And I'm also a podcaster, content creator, frequent conference speaker, as well as workshop teacher.
Awesome stuff, man. Good to know who you are. I'm glad. Hopefully, everybody's enjoying what's going on and have heard your credentials just now and said, maybe I might have joined the correct podcast tonight because Philip sounds like he knows a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to penetration testing. Now, Philip, pen testing, it's had a long history of people that are really interested in it. It sounds like such an awesome job, right? I teach pen testing. I got a whole Pen Test Plus course. So if you're looking to get a certification into pen testing, those are out there. And I want to talk about that kind of stuff as we move on down through our conversation. But tell me, why do you think it is that everybody out there is so enamored with pen testing? What is it about pen testing that makes people go, man, if I could just get that job, that'd be awesome?
Yeah, I think it just sounds really cool to everyone to get paid to hack for a living. I mean, it's funny because the movies and the media has really made it a job to be desired. Because if you look at any movie, anyone that's in it always knows how to hack or something. You see, even like the Harrison Ford movie, I think it was called Firewall or something like that. He knew how to hack. Everyone knows how to hack, and any of the jobs you ever see in the movies is usually hacking related. you don't hear much about the firewall except one is bypassing a firewall, breaking into the firewall. So it's a lot of it's been the media. A lot of it has also been, and if it's something someone wants to do and they're passionate about, by all means, pen test. But one of the things I also like to share is there's other things out there to do as well that are fun roles in cybersecurity. But it's just like getting paid to hack for a living is what really attracts people. They want to challenge. It's kind of some spy kind of stuff, So I think that's really what draws people to it.
Yeah, and in your experience, do the movies ring true? Does art imitate life? Is it as cool as we think it is, or is it like, it's a job?
It's cool, but I think sometimes they make it look cooler. If you ever see the hacking tools in the movies, the consoles of the hacking tools look a lot cooler than real life. I mean, one of the things I remember is like the one hacking movie, Swordfish with Hugh Jackman. Some of the setups and the screens and stuff looked a lot more cool than in real life. It's a fun job, but it's not an easy job to learn. Some of the downsides to it could be the crazy hours because some companies want you to test off production hours because they don't want it to impact the business. So sometimes, if you're not a fan of late hours, this might not be for you. Although sometimes when it comes to web app pen testing, they use a development environment to test, so that way they don't cause any harm to the production system. But just some of the crazy things. I used to test an airline at one of my previous consulting jobs, and the hours I had to work was like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we had like 5 days to get that part of the on-site pen test done. So the hours can be crazy, but people that are into gaming, that's not a big deal to them because they're up late playing video games and stuff. So it may not be an issue. So it's just some of the things to deal with, but it's the report writing is not always the most fun part, although one of the things I'd say and recommend to people when it comes to report writing is use it as a way to display how good of a job you did pen testing the environment. Whether you hacked into a lot of things or not, you're able to show how you thoroughly tested the systems and just kind of really walk through and then show them the quality work you did. And that kind of makes it fun. So if you make the pen test reporting piece fun, then that'll be less of a chore.
Yeah, that seems to be the linchpin a lot from I've heard from people such as yourself, friends of mine that are pen testers, that it's that report that you turn in is really the most important piece of the puzzle because that is the deliverable thing that goes into your client's hands. It's cool that you can do all the righteous hacks available out there and gain access into systems and put your hands on sensitive files and do all the fun, cool, hacky stuff. But at the end of the day, your clients really aren't concerned about that. What they want to know is, where are they vulnerable? And I found that one of the more difficult pieces about writing a report is having it align up with their risk, right? Like it's showing them through what you've done, how they are vulnerable and what the risk is to their organization. How do we do that effectively? What's your strategy for that? How do you say, well, I found a SQL injection and that's a critical versus a high versus a medium versus a whatever? What are the things that go into a finding that determine what the risk is to an organization?
Sure, you have to show the impact. So if the SQL injection reveals data, you're able to inject false information into the database, things like that. If you can prove it, so it's really going to depend on what's possible through the attack. Sometimes you may find some findings that they're not exploitable, so they won't be as high of a criticality. So you have to prove that when you're writing the report. You want to make sure that you're providing all the steps that you used. If you hack into that certain target you're testing, have complete steps on how you did it, uh, as well as showing screenshots of when you actually gained access to what level and stuff, and clearly documenting that. And also make sure that you're providing good instructions on how to remediate the vulnerability. And also in the report, you want to make sure you're able to communicate to the management types, the board, the CEO, and the executives. During the executive summary, you want to use not use jargon, use more plain language to explain that in the executive report, executive summary. But once you get into the detailed technical part of the report, then you can get a little more technical and more into the details. So there's something in there for everyone. The stakeholders, the business, as well as the people that will be remediating the issues and responsible for keeping the environment secure.
Yeah, Alicia Grimm is coming right in on our topic here with a great question about report writing. And she's asking, like, what are the best resources to help individuals take their report writing to the next level? How can we level that skill up so that when and would you recommend that if someone were going for applying for a job as a pen tester, should they attach a report to that resume or should they give them some of that meat to chew on a little bit when it comes to a report? Should we all have one in the pocket ready to prove that we can write a report?
Sure. And one of the things, it could be as simple as, say like you did a hack the box or try hack me room or CTF, that you could write up a single finding. It may not have to be a full report, but if you want to write a report, that's a great extra mile. In kind of that same vein, we're living in an era where you need a portfolio. Before it's just artists and performers. Now, as security professionals, we really need a portfolio, so that way you can have a sample of a report you've written up, put that on like a GitHub, any kind of scripts and stuff you've written. But as far as trying to get your report writing skills to a better level, if if you need help with your writing, one of the best things I did for my career when I went back to get my associate's degree, I was working in IT, and one of the local community colleges gave credit for certifications. So I got college credit for my MCSE, my Cisco CCNA, my Novell CNE certification, and I got credit for those. But then it left me where I had to take only a couple technical courses, but I had to take the basics like writing, English composition, math, and history. But the best course I took was English composition. It taught me how to be a better writer. So if you've got a good handle on writing, then maybe take a tech writing course somewhere. So the better you are at writing, the better off you'll be. One of the things you'll do in the reports that you'll want to do is say like the finding, whatever tool that you're using to discover the finding, or if you're using other findings for reference, you don't want to just copy what's within the Nessus vulnerability scanner or whatever, a burp suite. You want to rewrite those findings and make them more tailored towards that particular issue, as well as you want to reword it. Because whenever in my one of my consulting jobs, anytime we had a new finding, we'd have to go through and rewrite it, because we're not just wanting to copy and paste something, but just maybe a technical writing course, as Daniel mentioned, writing a pen test report. So just and one of the things too that's a big help, writing up the findings is not that difficult, but writing like the executive summary, where you go through and describe what all happened. Then you can practice like doing a conclusion, giving an observation of all the findings, what the findings were, what they impacted, what would happen if they were successfully exploited, and kind of give the how, the what, and the why behind those findings.
Yeah, great answer. We really appreciate that because, as we know, this is kind of like it's. What do they say in golf? You drive for show and putt for dough, right?
Yeah.
It is that pen test report writing is really where you make your money and really where you can stand out head and shoulders above everybody else, because everybody kind of focuses in on those technical skills, which are good. And you have to have them, obviously, but to have those soft skills, to have those other skills that can kind of separate you from the pack. Those are the kind of things that we try to do so that we can stand out when it comes time to sit in front of an interview and go, "Oh, you're worried about pen test reports? Not a problem. Check out my GitHub. I got a bunch of them in there. You can see the quality of my communication skills right then and there." I actually was messing around the other day because I was trying to do like, what if I did like a 5 minute or 10 minute pen test on like what you were saying, just one simple finding. And I was like, well, I need a report template. So I vibe coded a report template that was all done in JavaScript so I could just plop stuff in and screenshots, and it all made the beautiful. I was like, this is kind of fun. AI to the rescue. So much fun. So much fun. But that said, let's check in with chat a little bit. We got some good chat people in here. I see FedEx is in the house. I see Furious George.
Hey, FedEx.
Congratulations. Yeah, FedEx is there. You know, he's everywhere. You can't get away from
Yeah.
FedEx. That man, he is like a mist. He is if
He
he
should
is
he should be MasterCard. He's everywhere you want to be.
there you go. I love it. I love it. He's there, and he's always got something cool to contribute. So I'm glad he's
He
here.
does.
Alicia's always got great questions, so I'm glad she's here as well. Furious George just passed his Network Plus, so
Oh, congrats.
congratulations. That's right.
Good job.
Celebrating wins right here. You heard it first. All right, who else is in the house? We saw Noah Sec and hits
Hey, Noah.
hit playlists. Steve Young is here. Port Zero Cyber Solutions. Good to have you. Mando, always a pleasure. Terrence Banks, good to see you. Derek Hodgson, I think it is Hodgson. I'm sorry, my brain just would not wanting to put those two consonants together. We got the Lost Gambler, Rogue Outlaw 11, Jeffrey Johnson. Lots of great folks. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I see Justin DeJong just joined in here. The pain. The pain is the pain. Are you the pain? Justin. I always love the pain. He's great. Mark Fuentes. If you have a question, don't forget, put that in there. Don't forget to at my name so I can see it really easily. It jumps right out. Ask your questions. Philip is happy to take questions as we go along. But that said, I will try to steer this a little bit. And now we've been talking a little bit about pen test reporting. We talked a little bit about how people really want to get into pen testing. You've written a whole book on how to get into pen testing. That said, let's start there. Let's start with a kind of a really simple, straightforward. We're not going to get crazy, but people love a good roadmap. What's the Phillip Wylie roadmap to get into pen testing?
Sure. One of the things that I like to share is if you're going to learn how to hack into something, you've got to, or even defend something to secure a server, you have to understand the technology before you can secure it and before you can break into it. So you need to start with the basics, just like passing the Security Plus and Network Plus. Those basic courses help build the skills you need. So for me, fortunate enough, I had 6 years of sysadmin experience and then also had like 7 or 8 years experience of the blue team side before I got into pen testing. So learning the basics and don't skip out on that, understanding how networking works, how the operating systems work. Don't rush ahead to get into the hacking piece. Fortunately for me, pen testing was around then, but it was something I didn't was unaware of. And if I could have jumped straight to it, I would have. But fortunately, I had to work in IT and then work in security before I found out about pen testing. So that helped me lay the foundation. So building those foundational skills are very important, not to skip out on any of those. You need to understand Linux and Windows from a sysadmin level, because if you get a shell or command line access those systems, if you don't understand the command line, you'll be doing a lot of Googling or using a lot of chat GPT to figure out what to do next. So building those basic skills.
Yeah, I love that you put that in there. I can't tell you how many times I've had people ask me questions about, a hacking relating thing or a pen tested related thing, and it's specifically the issue that they're having is something to do with networking, or they don't understand the operating system that they've landed in. They don't understand how to communicate with it correctly. They're like, this isn't working. It's like, well, did you check to make sure that it can work? Well, I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, it feels like you skipped a few steps. Let's back the tape up a little bit here and go back to beginning. What do you know about how networks work and how things connect and talk to each other? So I'm glad that you put that in there. Now that said, you talked about a very traditional career path. I mean, it sounds like you went from IT, you went to defensive blue teaming kind of things where you were probably doing some firewall writing and that kind of stuff, setting out AV rules and things of that nature, and then moved into pen testing. Do you think that is a better and I know this is going to be a very subjective question, so
Yeah.
feel free. This is Phillip Wylie's opinion, and he's allowed
Yeah.
to have it, and you're allowed to disagree with that. But I've heard a lot of people say, "Yo, you ain't got to do all that stuff. That's gatekeeping. You just go straight into pen testing." And I've seen that happen. I've seen people
Yeah.
do it. Do you think that there is a greater benefit to going that traditional route, or if you're brand new to it, you should just kind of get your fundamentals underneath your feet and then just run straight to pen testing?
Yeah. One thing I do want to say, preface this with, is sometimes with people sharing their opinions with you, it's not always gatekeeping, because a good friend of mine, Jeff Foley, that wrote the Amass uh, OSINT tool, a reconnaissance tool, he recommends doing things before you get into pen testing. And so when some people tell you that, some people are gatekeeping, some people uh, are gatekeeping, they get jealous and maybe they're not working in pen testing, and here you are, maybe you get less experience than them. And I think, who are you to be jumping and skipping ahead? You don't have to do that. Optimal path is to spend some time, in those different areas before you get into pen testing, but you don't have to do that. As long as you build those base skills, you don't have to be a sysadmin, but you need to have, like sysadmin level knowledge. You don't have to have the actual experience, but in the labs, doing the different trainings, learning these different resources, these different technologies, you don't have to do that. You can start out as a pen tester if you want to, and if you can get a role in pen testing, I would recommend you do it. I had one of my students at Dallas College that came up, and when he was in class, he the first week of class, he come up and said, "I want to be a pen tester. I'll be as good as you, but I don't want to take as long to get there. Is that possible?" And I said, "Yes. You just have to spend more time practicing and learning, and you can get to where I was at as faster. You can do that." Second week into the course, he comes up and says, "Do I have to read the manual if I want to be a pen tester?" And I told him, I said, "You need to spend more time in labs." I didn't want to discourage him and tell him, "No, you need to read the manual. No, it takes this." I didn't really want to seem gatekeepy, because sometimes when you kind of put up these roadblocks for people, you kind of sow seeds of doubt, and I don't believe in that, because a lot of cases I'll tell people, yeah, try it, encourage them to go out and try it. If they're not ready yet, then they have to take a step back, do a little more study and get in there. But you never can tell when the opportunity arises. You may apply somewhere that doesn't require experience, or they may come up and like your mindset. They may like the way you do things. Cause like my first role as a pen tester, I didn't have the pen testing experience, but the hiring manager liked that I was learning all this other stuff on my own. I taught myself how to build websites, taught myself how to design websites. I did all this on my own. I did a lot of learning. I did my initial security education before I got into security from being a system administrator, and that stuff helped. And he was big on teaching people to build, not necessarily hacking. If you know how it goes together, it's a lot easier for you to hack into it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that, and it seems like you're hinting to the fact that, and I love this comment from Noah Sec. Research skills, like big bold letters. You got to be good at finding stuff online. You got to be
Yes.
good at figuring out the answer. You got to treat everything like it's a puzzle to be solved. And if you've got that mindset, it's going to really send you a lot of way. And the way you were talking about is having that kind of drive and determination to get out there and learn, regardless of whether someone's giving you the information or whether you got to go take it and build a lab or do something. You just get interested in things, and then you're a self-starter. You're just winding up your own, the wind up toys, right? You're just winding up your own key and going, I'm gonna go learn how to build websites.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go learn how to do this. I'm gonna learn how to do that. So that does seem to be a key ingredient. Would you say that that is something that if you don't have it, you're going to struggle quite a bit in this job?
It's gonna be a little more difficult if you're not a self-starter and learn on your own. So people that learn on their own really thrive in this area, and it might take folks that it's a little more difficult, it might take them a little more time. But one of the things I saw that with my students that I really admired, I had an older student in the class, and he was having a hard time getting it, but he spent more time in the labs than anyone else. He did it over and over again until he figured it out. And repetition's key in a lot of cases. You just have to repeat it over and over again until you get it down and it clicks. Some
That's right.
people it comes faster for. And one thing is don't I want people not to get discouraged if it doesn't come easy for you. After you do it for a while, build up those skills, you'll get better. Because one of the examples I like to share was back before I got into being a sysadmin. I went to school to learn AutoCAD. I started out as a CAD drafter. And when I was in school, this was like in 93 to 94, I had zero computer skills. My computer skills were the worst in my class. We were learning computer skills while we are in class. Back then, learning DOS, learning how to type. And by the time I got out of school into the real world doing drafting, I was picking up on the latest features of AutoCAD quicker than my peers that have been in the industry years longer than me. I developed and realized that I had a knack for computers, and so that's kind of the way it is. It may seem difficult at first, but once you learn the basics, you're able to put the puzzle together, and it gets easier for you.
Yeah, that is absolutely truth right there. So it can definitely be, if you have capacity to just keep at it, it'll eventually just happen. I remember I got reached out to one time by a fellow who was a truck driver, which I got much love for truck drivers because my dad was a truck driver my whole life, right? That was his career. And he was like, I truck driving's great, but I want to get into cybersecurity and I'm trying to do all this stuff. And it just seems like there's so much to learn. It's overwhelming. I'm like, bro, just stick with it every day. Get up, follow the bouncing ball, do the thing. I think someone was talking about doing the reps, right? Tech grunt. Gotta love tech grunt. Do the reps, put the reps in, and you will get. I said one day, put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, just kind of going off of what Daniel said, the repetitions, a lot of it's just keep doing it over and over again, and you'll finally get there. That's really the key to the success of a lot of things. I was just thinking about that podcasting wise and the speaking I do at conferences. What's helped me is I've just continued to do it over the years. Was I really good at it when I first started out? No, but I've continued to stick with it and I've gotten better. It's just like Daniel saying, putting in the reps. As you just keep on uh, putting in the reps, putting in the time, you're going to get better. You look at pro football players or pro athletes, that you see these athletes in the NFL that are playing at such a high level. They started out playing pee-wee football all the way up through high school and through college. So it took them all that time to improve their skills. So you can kind of see the same thing translates into what we're doing. It's putting in the time, you keep doing it and you'll get there.
Am I back?
Yes.
Okay. That was fun. Thanks, Restream. Just kicked me out and it wouldn't let me back in. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, did I lose internet connectivity? Nope. So you see the little Restream here, right here. Don't do
Yes.
that. That's apparently a bad move because I say that. This is the first time I've ever had a single issue with Restream. So what are you going to do? It was a lot of fun. I'm glad, but a consummate professional as always. I know Phillip just kind of hit the ground running. This was a lot of fun. What an interesting show we've had today.
I got a good idea where you're going before, because you're kind of breaking up, and I just kind of continued on from there. But
Perfect. Well, I don't know where we left off, but yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad it was you, Phillip, because this ain't your first rodeo. So thank you very much for
yeah,
continuing.
you're talking about the person that was the truck driver, and you told them how to just keep continuing putting the reps in, and that they
That's
would
it.
get there. And I kind of
Yeah.
expounded upon that.
Yeah, and that guy did eventually. He did get into cybersecurity. He actually landed an internship with Cisco. He took a Cisco boot camp that was specific to security because he was also a veteran. So it was like a veterans thing. And then he was able to procure that. And then he became a Cisco security guy. That's what he does now. So that's, and that kind of brings us, that's a great segue as we're at the mid roll here at the halfway part of now that we've talked about the mindset, some of the skills a little bit, about pen test writing. We've danced around the idea of technical skills, and then of course a roadmap to getting there. Let's start talking about how we do that. What is the best way to gain skills, and what are the skills that we need? Are we talking certification here? Are we talking about going to school and getting a degree of some kind? Is that the best way to go? Is it some amalgamation of home labs, certs, and a degree? Or what do you think is the best? Again, subjective opinion
It's
there.
it's going to depend on the person, because everyone's different. If you're a self starter you learn easy on your own, then I think, I'm not going to discourage anyone if you want to go to college and get a degree. But one of the things is people that are self starters, able to learn on their own quickly, the certification route is a good way to go. If you really need that structure and you really don't understand what you need to do, you lack those basics, then a degree may be the way to start. And some people may do like security degree, cybersecurity degree. Really, I think the optimal way, if you're going to get a degree, I would get a degree in computer science in minor in cybersecurity, because learning how to code, how all that works, is going to make you better as a penetration tester. Certifications are important, but you don't necessarily have to have them. But I'll caveat that with saying, if you've got a degree, if you got certifications, you're going to have more of the box checked. It's going to be easier to find a job, because there are some companies out there that want you to have a 4-year degree. Used to, the big four consulting firms expected a degree, but I heard in recent years they're no longer requiring a 4-year degree. But everyone's boxes you can check is going to help to get the actual hands-on experience. Doing things like CTF and hack the box are really good ways to build those skills, because you're actually, you're putting in the work, you're getting in the hacking practice. If you understand how the different pen testing tools work, how to exploit certain vulnerabilities, if you're on a job interview, you can explain how to use those tools, explain the different vulnerabilities. It's going to make it easier for you to find a job. So one of the things, regardless of certifications or however you get started, is getting in practice. Once you It's like you read the book and then you go to the gym. And so the CTF hack the box is the gym where you go in and practice what you learned.
Yeah, you'll notice I just dropped a little link there too.
Yeah.
Pen Test
Pentest
Plus,
Plus.
right? And
Pentest
that's
Plus is good content. Whenever I was teaching at Dallas College, I started out with Georgia Weidman's book the first 2 semesters, and then the Pentest Plus curriculum came out, and I did one of the teach the teacher sessions that CompTIA puts out. Went through that, and I said, I really like this material. And one of the things I like too, it's at the college, they were doing the all the different CompTIA certs. They had Security Plus, the CYSA Plus, and all those mention a little bit about pen testing, and they kind of build you up, prepare you once you get into the Pen Test Plus. So I was really a big fan of the Pen Test Plus curriculum. So it's kind of a really good starting point to kind of build that base, and then go on working your hack the box, start looking at more advanced certifications.
Yeah, that's what I love about the Pentest Plus actually is like, I know CompTIA gets a lot of shade thrown on them for X, Y, and Z reasons. Some of it well earned, and some of it's a little conflated. But I've always found the Pentest Plus to be a very good. I think this is what they do well, is making foundational certs. Like this is the base set of skills that you need to lean into and get some familiarity with, and then take it to the next level with going on to other certifications out there. And of course, so I have a Pentest Plus course that's available out there. It's on the Simply Cyber Academy. So if anybody's interested, I'll put a link in the description. But that said, I want to get Phillip. I'm going to put Phillip in the hot seat for a hot second, right? So get ready to feel the burn. It's going to get warm. Out of all the certifications out there that are geared toward pen testing, red teaming, whatever, what do you find to be the most useful for someone that's out there looking to get a job? If you said you can only get one cert and that cert's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, what's that going to be?
The OSCP.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say
And,
that.
when I say that, it's probably not going to be one of the easier courses to do. There's some that are easier. There's some that, the thing about it is the OSCP is more widely recognized. You have like the PNPT that is good, good resource that you can learn from it, and it could probably help prepare you to begin the OSCP or take the OSCP. But at the end of the day, the OSCP is more recognized. PNPT is a good cert, but if you want something that's more widely recognized, the OSCP. And actually, there's a cert from this organization that's a global organization. Probably, I think they're out of Europe, but CREST certification. So over in Europe, CREST certifications, CREST certified consulting firms, CREST certified professionals are sometimes requirements to do some of the pen testing over there. And the OSCP is kind of a way to get to that CREST certification. You can use it as a substitute, as part of that certification. So that goes to show how it's globally recognized. So not saying the other certifications aren't useful, but if you look at the ones that are, if you go look at all these different companies, you're going to see the OSCP as a requirement over some of these other certifications.
Yeah, it still does seem to be holding in there really strong as one of the most recognized, if not the most recognized, penetration testing certification. I have also seen an increase in popularity for things like PNPT and
Yes.
others. And I've also seen a lot of, job posts that will say, OSCP or similar. I've seen
Yeah.
that verbiage starting to be used as well. So I like that. And when we're specifically talking about getting jobs, that I think I would have to agree, right? I think that's just the objective truth of it is that most people recognize and know that the OSCP is a pen testing cert, whether or not they understand what goes into getting the OSCP and how it differs from things like PNPT and CPP or what's the Hack the Box's new cert CPS C,
CCPTS or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
CPTS it is or others.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that said, what would out of all the certifications that you know of or have taken, which one do you like the best just because you thought it was the best exam and with the content?
As far as the content, some of the best ones I've taken have been some of the old eLearn security courses. Whenever I went through the OSCP, I don't think there was enough details, enough coverage in it. But the thing is, you have to take in consideration when the OSCP first came out, or when it was the first several years of the OSCP, only experienced security professionals were going through this course. It wasn't like a course for someone without any kind of pen testing experience. A lot of cases, it was people that worked in pen testing, took this certification training and got the certification. So it was really not geared towards beginners. And then they started adding some easier courses to help build people up for that. And that's why things like PNPT is a better place to start, because it's a little more, these courses are geared more towards people trying to learn brand new, not someone that's an experienced professional. But I'm also a big fan of the Hack the Box Academy stuff, because uh, their director over the content there for the Hack the Box Academy, he used to be at eLearn Security. And so the good thing about Hack the Box is they've got IoT training in there. They also have some AI stuff in there now. They got OT and cloud. So they offer a lot of different trainings that some of these other platforms don't offer.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Love Hack the Box to death. I think they are just a wonderful platform. They've had such a great history of being kind of tip of the spear when it comes to making it not that they're trying to make it as difficult as possible, but there's a lot less hand holding that goes on there, and yet a strong community that is good for helping. They make everything within the realm of you are able to do this. You just got to put in the hard work to make it happen. So I really like them. And another one that really I feel gets slept on. I don't know if you ever used them or done any of their training. I don't believe they have any certifications as of yet. Um, is Pentester Lab. If you're looking
Yeah.
to get into web app pen testing, I find Pentester Lab to be really, really good stuff. What do you think of them?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's actually Pentester Lab. Yeah. That the cool thing I love about Pentester Lab is the fact that if you're doing web app pen testing and you want to learn how to exploit stuff, get like root to a system, they will show you how to do that, because some of the other web app pen testing stuff will show you how to find vulnerabilities. But if you really want a course that uh, is able to help you actually hack something and not just find vulnerabilities, this is one of the best ones out there. Uh, so I've got to meet the founder of the company and stuff, and actually some of the Pentester Lab swag. So they got some really cool. Some of their content's free, and it's just really nice that like I said, they will go through, and if there is a way to get root to something, they're going to show you. Some of the other trainings out there don't really get into the details of trying to get system control of anything. But yeah, that's one of the best web app pen testing courses out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, we just got a new guest to jump in
Yes.
behind you there. It's so
Yeah,
much
that's
fun.
my script kitty.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'll tell you what, Pentester Lab for me, when I found them, I jumped on the platform and I started going through their I forget what it was called. It was like the core fundamentals or whatever it was. And it was like 50 different challenges that you had to complete to get that. And then they had all the belt colors like karate, it was like yellow belt, blue belt, so on and so forth. And I was hooked on that. And that's where I really learned that I needed to learn some programming. I needed to learn some scripting. I need to understand how these web applications are actually put together and be able to create my own thing so that I could automatically make things happen without, because sometimes that's where I learned about like JWT hacking, right? Digging into those things, using the different algorithms to be able to sign them, encrypt them, do all that stuff. I was like, I have no idea how to do this. And there they are showing me this is something you need to be able to learn how to do. And I thought, okay. So I put my hand to the plow and said, all right, I'm going to learn how to make this happen. And it really upped my skills. So I really like Pentester Lab.
Yeah, I guess they got some really nice basic stuff that you start because some of the content's free, and if you have uh, a university or college ID, you can get a student discount.
Oh, that's sweet. That's great to know because there you go. Get a little discount, save a little bit of extra money,
Yeah.
and get a really good education. So, we've been talking about certifications, we've been talking about skills and what we need to do to get those, and what we think about when it comes to the best certification for a job versus the best certification we just like because the content is really good. Let's talk about some hands on experience. Now, obviously, a lot of these labs we've talked about Hack the Box, we've talked about Pentester Lab. But what do you feel like, and I think you even mentioned this at the opening of our conversation, is do you think that those platforms can be a handicap in a certain way? Because I feel like that can be, but I want to get your take on this. Do you feel like maybe going in and building the labs yourself gives you more information or more knowledge, more skill, more acumen, whatever it is you want to call it, more understanding of what's going on with both the underlying thing that you're hacking plus how you're hacking it? Do you think that's a better way to go and just build your own home labs? Or is it just another thing you should be doing?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on if you've got the IT background, you may not necessarily have to build your home labs because one of the things whenever I wrote the Pentester Blueprint, I preached and emphasized building your own home lab all the time. But one of the things I thought about in hindsight, because there's so many nice resources online that if you've got the IT basics and you're just needing to learn to pen test and hack, sometimes your time may be better spent on these other resources. But if you don't have the IT background, then they could be helpful to go through learning how to build a Windows or Linux server. So you can learn from that, learning how to build, a web server, set up Apache and do all this stuff could be very helpful. So if you don't really have that technical background, it's a really good place to learn. But I think if you've got the experience, then I would focus on the different resources to hack on to build those skills.
Let me get the Phillip Wylie Home Lab Express. What would you, if you had to build a home lab? If you're out there, you're like, hey, I don't really have the IT background. I want to get some pen testing skills, but obviously IT is apparently very important. What should I do? What kind of lab should I put together so that I can get some of that hands on with IT and hacking?
So if you want kind of a minimal lab, because one of the things you got to look at, if you get really extensive and you have separate systems that you set up multiple servers on your network, then you end up having to troubleshoot networking and getting all the network working and stuff. And then it's all going to depend on the speed of your home network. So if you want to put it all on one server or one system, you can put VMs on there and operate it from there. You can get as extravagant if you want to. You can go on eBay, buy servers, or you could get Raspberry Pis and set up individual servers, or you can just depend on virtualization. And virtualization is kind of the way I lean, trying to get everything to interconnect and work correctly. And then you can go to VulnHub and download different vulnerable VMs that you can set up. And some of these are retired CTFs. The Metasploitable series is always a good one. Metasploitable 2 and Metasploitable 3. Metasploitable 2 is only on Ubuntu, but Metasploitable 3 you can install on Windows. So you need to learn how to hack Windows and Linux. You're going to run into more of Windows than anything else. So being able to set those up is pretty good in your own home lab. And it's kind of fun to experiment. So one of the advantages if you build a home lab, and I kind of went through this when I was going through the OSCP, I failed the exam and I had to go back and retake it. and I was trying to set up one of the labs at home and practice at home. And one of the things I was noticing was at home, because at the time on the OSCP, those certain systems didn't have antivirus or Windows Defender on it. So I would sit there, I was trying to exploit the system, and Windows Defender was deleting it. So I had to go back and disable Windows Defender. But one of the things with building your own home lab is you can have antivirus off, try exploiting the system, and then you can try to work on bypassing antivirus too. So you can kind of work on developing those skills. Once you get past the basic, work on trying to do evasion and get past the antivirus. So that's some of the benefits. If you set up a home lab, you can kind of control the difficulty, start out easy, and then start working on some evasion techniques.
Awesome stuff. I've got a good conversation going on over here in the chat that I just noticed, and it's pretty pertinent. Very cool stuff. It looks like this is the Hacking Lab LLC. Says the number of times when I used to hire pen testers, I had not hired them because they couldn't present in front of a client. It was too exploiting higher. Talking about when $100,000 pen test project gets messed up because the pen tester bombs the presentation and the report at the end. That is a good point. And I love
It
that we're
is.
having that conversation, that not just the report, but you also typically do a debrief, right? Where you actually
Yeah.
get in front of your client and you present to them. How
Yes.
often do you see these things go really bad? And how do we develop this skill so that we can present and give our client a good presentation?
Yeah. So one of the things, this is kind of one of the most stressful parts as a pen tester, and it really depends on who you're doing the debrief to. It's also uh, the readout or closeout call. And one of the things too is you really have to prepare for this meeting. Make sure you've gone through the report. Maybe it's been a week or two since you did the pen test. So go through, make sure you're fully prepared. And one of the things, when you did the pen test report, you should provide plenty of details and evidence that you actually exploited these systems, because you're running into cases where you've got the Unix administrator that has really worked hard patching their system, securing it, and thinking it's not hackable. And it's just a matter of you've got to prove to them. And one of the things I kind of compare it to, it's like a lawyer trying to defend your case. So you have to be ready when you go in there, have all the proof behind it, be prepared. And one of the things is too is always set the mood that you're trying to help them. You're not trying to make them look bad, because if when it's a us against them situation, those don't always go well. So really kind of letting them know we're all on the same team. Some of the things to do on the pen test report to make these go more smoothly is list things that they did well. So say like if you were doing a pen test, maybe physical pen test wasn't part of it, but you can kind of mention some of the physical controls you saw in place that they did a real good job with during the pen test. You can mention certain things that maybe that you saw that were good practices, and notate those in the report. Pen test report, this is a report card. So it's not purely what all you're doing wrong. You're also wanting to kind of document what they're doing right. But I agree with that. That's one of those things that can really go bad. And you want to make sure whoever is giving the report, if it's, you know, a really big pen test and super critical, make sure that you've got someone senior on the team. Maybe they're one doing the readout. Let the newer folks kind of set in on the call and answering questions that need to be answered. But that's just kind of my 2 cents worth.
Have you ever worked with a team where you actually practice giving presentations so that you have a nice polished finish when you go in front of the client?
Nah.
That's funny because, we're
Yeah.
sitting here talking about that is the case, and one of the best things, so when I became a presenter, when I started presenting, I moved out of IT and security and got into where I do this, where I talk to people and I have conversations with folks, was I had to start watching myself a lot. I just start
Yeah.
seeing how I presented, what I did, what were my comfort phrases, how did I look body language wise, and was there any filler words that I tended to lean on when I was in a presentation? Did I tend to talk too fast? Did I tend to talk too slow? Was I projecting my voice? These are things I didn't realize I did or didn't do correctly until I started watching. So I would highly recommend, if anybody's out there and you really want to be able to impress when it comes to having an interview and standing in front of people and giving a presentation, maybe giving a talk at a con or something to that effect, watch yourself, practice, practice does make perfect when it comes to this kind of thing. So listen to the things you're doing. Look at yourself with a very uh, jaundiced eye and say, I'm not gonna see myself as all sugar and rainbows. I'm gonna really critique and see what I can do better. How can I deliver better? I'm gonna be mindful of not saying half a million times because it's a real thing and we do it.
Yeah. One of the things I'd recommend is Toastmasters because back in 2012, no, it's like 2013, they're announcing the call for papers for our local B-size DFW. And the person doing the call, what was announcing the call for papers, said the best job of his career came from him speaking at conferences. So I went and signed up for Toastmasters, did it for over a year because I wanted to be able to speak at conferences, and I was too afraid to do it. And so one of the nice things about Toastmasters is they would record your talks. So you do your presentations. And the nice thing about it is it's only like a 5 to 7, maybe 12-minute long presentation. And they critique you during your presentation and you're able to listen to the recording. And they also they got impromptu speaking parts of the meetings that you sit there and they will go through and they'll correct you if you say or whatever, or use different filler words, correct you on that while you're doing it to help get those kind of out of your system
Yeah,
and
that's
kind of help
great.
break that habit.
Yeah, nothing like trial by fire and immersion
Yeah.
therapy to,
Yeah. Once
to
I got I
really.
used to be terrified to speak in public, and then now it's not a big thing because a lot of practice doing it in person, but going Toastmasters made it possible.
Yeah. So find it, and if you can't do Toastmasters or something like that, go find like an improv group,
Yeah.
anything to get you out there to help you start developing the way you can do it. Alicia Grimm was saying that I should develop a class on how to do that good speaking in front of the peoples when they're looking at you all wide eyed and crazy like. All right, so let's see here. I think we got just a few more minutes left, and I think the best thing we can do. Now, I do have a couple of questions. I think they are from Alicia. Let me see what we got here. Uh, this is a good question. So Alicia asks, would you recommend learning all the different types of penetration tests, like network, wireless, physical, or just focus on one specific niche?
Typically, if you're doing pen testing, one of the things I'd recommend is learning network pen testing and web app pen testing because those are usually the most common. Learning Wi-Fi is that next step, but then also if you want to specialize and get really good at something, then you can't do all the different things. But I would start out doing different types of pen testing, find out which one you like the best, then specialize in it. That's kind of like Tiberius because Tiberius started out the same way I did, doing network and web app, and he liked the application side better and started specializing in that. So if you really like Active Directory, that's a really highly needed skill to be able to do Active Directory pen testing. So specialization can be good, but I would start out kind of doing different parts until you find out what you're interested in, and
Cross-site
then either
scripting pays the bills.
yeah.
And then she also asked the follow-up with about your book. Is the Pentester Blueprint still a good read today as a roadmap, or would be considered dated at this point? Are you looking to update it, or do you think it still is fairly relevant for today's landscape?
Yes, they're still fairly relevant. The only thing I'd say that really need to be updated is some of the certifications. Some newer certifications I would add to it. But it's still, the thing about it is it doesn't teach you to be a pen tester. It teaches you kind of what you need to learn to become a pen tester. So that's kind of so it's really kind of still relevant.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good to know, because now you good folks can run out there and grab you a copy off of Amazon and other booksellers
And
nationwide.
Amazon's a good place to get it because I think it's like $18 and it
Oh
was
yeah.
the list price is like $30.
Oh, yeah, so go to
So it's been
Amazon
yeah.
right now, everybody, if you wanna get a copy of that. That's the best place to get it right now. Alright, let's see here. Now, we've got about 6 minutes left to go, and I think we've saved the best for last. Let's talk about resumes, applying for jobs, interviews. It's rough out there. It's raw out in the pen testing streets right now, Philip. Give us some help, give us some guidance. If we're, you know what, I got maybe a cert or two. I've been working on hack the box stuff. I've got a few tools that I've written in a GitHub. I've got my pen test report in my back pocket, ready to fly. How do I get in front of people? How do I get into an interview? And if so, and if I do get there, what do I do so that I don't blow it?
So one of the things I'd recommend is, like I mentioned earlier, building a portfolio. So any of this GitHub stuff that you have, any kind of write-ups for Hack the Box, any CTFs, do write-ups on the different vulnerabilities or do a pen test report. Do some walkthroughs if you want to do walkthrough videos on YouTube. That's a really good way for people to see your skills, because it's going to set you apart from the crowd. Because if you got someone else that's got the same certification, same degree, if you've got a portfolio showing demos on how you've hacked these different boxes and hacked the box, pen test reports and scripts, uh, that's going to kind of give you an edge. And if you can go a step further and get CVEs, so CVEs are numbers assigned to vulnerability. So if you find a 0 day and you do a write up on it, you get like a CVE number. And with CVEs, you can document that on your resume. You can put it under the publications section on your LinkedIn profile and actually put links to the CVE. So you're able to, people just not take your word for it. They can go out, look at the CVE and see that you have credit for that CVE. The other thing that you really have to do is get out there and network. If you're going to just do applying online, that way is very difficult. And one of the examples I like to share was when I went to work for US Bank. I had met someone at a local OWASP chapter meeting, and he said at the beginning of the meeting, "Hey, my company where I'm working is looking for a pen tester. If you're interested, give me your resume." So we connected. I gave him my resume. Within 2 weeks, within a week I had an interview, within 2 weeks I had a job offer. At the same time, I applied for a job at Bank of America, same role. I had my OSCP, CISSP, and SANS web app pen testing certification. So what well qualified for the role, but I didn't hear back from Bank of America for a year. And so I had the skills I needed. So if you think about this, this is an experienced professional with several years of experience, and if I apply online, it takes me a year to hear back on it. You can just imagine what it is like for most people. So most of the jobs I get anymore are from people I know that have job openings. Either I reach out to them, like my current role, the company where I was at, my contract was ending. I reached out to the CEO and founder of the company where I work and told him that I was looking for jobs, and they created a role for me. But some cases, not always that people are going to create roles for you. They may have job openings. If you see a role open on LinkedIn, ask someone to recommend you, because they could get anywhere from $500, $3,500. I've seen as high as $5,000 for referring someone, because recruiters, you may pay them $20,000 recruiting fee. But if, for referrals, companies get off a lot cheaper paying referrals to employees. And so just ask them to recommend you, because a lot of cases they need the extra money and they'll recommend you. And when you go to these meetups and stuff, just don't stand in the corner. Introduce yourself. Let people know what you're studying, your certifications, what you're interested in. So if they have any jobs, they can share with you, or they can come back later. So when I was working at Dallas College, I used to always get requests for junior pen testers. And there was this young guy in our community that was a recent college grad. I knew what he had done, what he's interested in. I knew his skill set. And when someone asked me for entry level pen testers, I shared his resume. He ended up getting the job. So the networking thing is really huge, because most people I know that really network. I mean, for me, I don't know how long ago. It's been years, probably since AT&T. No, it wasn't AT&T. I mean, Verizon, my very first pen test job. I applied for that job, but after that, I was uh, getting referrals. So my second job, the founder of Dallas Hackers Association recommended me there, and so on and so on. All these different jobs I've gone to, I've gotten recommendations to get those jobs. So that's really the way you got to do, because now trying to bypass the HR firewall is getting very difficult. So if you know someone inside, they're able to either the hiring manager, or they can get that resume in the hands of the hiring manager, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, because at the end of the day, they're trying to get that person hired and find the best qualified person easy as possible. They don't have to go through these thousands or hundreds of resumes to try to find a good candidate.
Well, there you go, kids. You heard it here first that if you're not connected with each other on LinkedIn, do that right now.
Yes.
Because LinkedIn is still, while yes, it has changed a lot over the years, and I've watched it morph into what it is today, and it has its pros and it has its cons. It's still the number one place to go to network with people that are in your profession. So get out there, connect with each other, and then if you hear something and you know of someone, put the two together. It's nice. Sharing is caring. It's just like kindergarten, except now it's, money in people's lives. So make that happen. Phillip, we are out of time for this session, brother. I really appreciate you joining us tonight and all the experience and the guidance and the wisdom that you've given us. We are forever in your debt. Why don't you give the people what they want? They want to know, how can we follow Phillip? How can we know where you're going to be, what you're doing, what you're up to? Give us a little taste.
Sure. So one of the best places to find me is on LinkedIn, just Phillip Wylie. Also check out thehackermaker.com. This is my website, and my YouTube channel is just Phillip Wylie. So I've got my podcast on there, and some other videos. I've got links to some of the conference talks I've done. I'm also on Twitter as at Phillip Wylie, and on the all the major podcast platforms. So my next conference is, I don't have anything coming up in the US left for the rest of the year. I'll be going to speaking virtually for Hack the Hills in Australia, and then I'll be speaking in person at Black Hat Middle East and Africa in December. And another thing to share too is I'm happy to announce that I'm starting a conference with the founders of HuSecCon. They rebranded as CyberSecCon, but I'm starting a conference in Dallas. It will be March 17th, St. Patrick's Day next year in Plano, Texas. And it's kind of a hacker or practitioner type conference. So it should be a lot of fun.
Wow, I cannot wait. I hope that I'll have free time and the ability to head out to that. That would be a lot of fun. That'd be
Yeah,
great
I hope to
stuff.
see you there. We'll have a podcast recording room there too. So
Ooh, well, that
good
sounds
place for
fun.
you to create some content.
It is indeed. Thank you again, Phillip, for dropping by. And don't forget, everyone, we'll do this again next week. We got another guest lined up. You know how it goes at 9 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday nights. That's how we roll. Phillip, thanks for joining us yet again. And we hope to see you soon out in Plano, Texas. As soon as you get that rocking and rolling, I'm going to put it on my calendar as soon as I see it. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep hacking. And now we have to stare at the screen because it takes forever to